Hey everyone, this is the video that I've sat down to make several times. I made the list out several times. This is my top 10 albums from 1973. So top 10 albums that turned 50 this year. Now, you're going to see a lot of glaring exceptions on the list, mainly because a lot of what other people really think are the most fantastic, I don't have. And in some cases, I don't think are maybe the best. And so this was actually a tougher thing for me to put together than I thought it would be. Uh, so, having said that, it's across several genres here: rock and blues and country and folk. I have some coffee with me because it's the morning and I really need coffee. And man, I'm feeling stuffy, sinuses. It's here in Michigan. The weather's been weird, and so uh, there's still mold and spores and crap in the air in December, and so. Anyway, got my legal addictive stimulant there, which we all crave and need, as the commercial that Tom Hanks has out right now says. And here we go. So these are in no, not ranked 1 to 10. I sort of put them by genre a little bit, kind of. Um, One of the great blues albums of all time. One of the great debut albums of all time, the Sun Seals Blues Band. Now, this had some funky organ on it, and he didn't have that a lot after this. Um, Sun Seals from Osceola, Arkansas, started out as a drummer. He was actually in Albert King's band. He can be found on some of the San Francisco recordings from the late 60s. And I don't know if he switched to guitar or had always played guitar. His dad ran a roadhouse in Arkansas, so music was always a big part of his life. Gritty voice, like a sandpaper meets a bullfrog, and it's fantastic. And so Sun Seals, Johnny Big Moose Walker on organ, John Riley on bass, Charles Caldwell on drums. This is one of those where Bruce I'm so sorry if I'm massacring his name, founder of Alligator Records. Somebody called him up while he was working at the Jazz Record Mart for Bob Kester, who owned Bellmark Records. And they said, man, you got to come hear this guy. He was on a payphone, and he ran down there, and sure enough, he wanted Sun Seals on his record. So Mother-in-Law Blues, Your Love is Like a Cancer, Cotton Picking Blues, Hot Sauce was an instrumental one that he did quite a bit for the rest of his career. And every song on here is killer. So if you've never heard of the Sun Seals Blues Band or Sun Seals, start at the beginning. Came out in 1973, fantastic blues record. If I were picking uh, top favorite albums, and ranking them, this one wouldn't just be at number 9 or whatever. This is one of the definitive albums of John Prine's career. Sweet Revenge, uh, album number 3. Yes, album number 3 from John Prine. Came out in 1973. Sweet Revenge, Please Don't Bury Me, Christmas in Prison, Dear Abby, Blue Umbrella, Often is a Word I Seldom Use, Onomatopoeia, Grandpa Was a Carpenter, The Accident, Things Could Be Worse, Mexican Home, A Good Time, and 9-Pound Hammer. Holy moly, what? This is it. If you only ever owned one John Prine album, a lot of people would point toward the debut. I would actually point toward this. This is my favorite John Prine record of all time. And again, I have all of his albums, so I'm able to say, sort of objectively, what my favorite is. This one right here has a bit of a rock feel to it, country rock. In some places, still got the folk elements. Steve Goodman is on here at some point. Or a lot of points. Dave Prine, his brother, is on here. Grandpa was a carpenter. My grandpa died in April of 2020. And even though John Prine was my dad's age, you talk about that Midwestern relatability. His grandpa was a carpenter. My grandpa was a carpenter. His dad was a tradesman. My dad was a tradesman. The sort of Midwest work ethic that they had. And it's just, there's a lot of overlap. And so when my grandpa died, I played The Carpenter by Guy Clark, and Grandpa Was a Carpenter by John Prine that night. And that's how I honored my grandpa. So this album not only is my favorite, and has been for a lot of years, it has a sentimental place. And so, and in the song Mexican Home, he talks about his dad dying on the porch on an August afternoon. My dad died in the hospital on an August morning. but then he sips bourbon and cried with a friend by the light of the moon. That was my night in August when Dad died. Laura and I sat and I had a wee nip or two, and so anyway, personal for me as well as just fantastic movie. Now here's one I actually just procured this year. Finally, after years of looking for a decently priced and good shape copy. So this is a 76 repress. It's not the original 73 Monument Records pressing. However, the sound is fantastic. Billy Joe Shaver's recording debut. Old Five and Dimers Like Me. Now, Billy Joe had been kicking around Texas and Nashville for years at this point, writing songs for other people. But this was, and Chris Christopherson helped get him onto Monument Records. Tom T. Hall, the great songwriter, wrote the liner notes on the back. Just Black Rose, Old Five and Dimers Like Me, LA Turnaround, Jesus Christ, What a Man. Played the game too long. I've been to Georgia on a fast train. Willie the Wandering Gypsy and Me. Low Down Freedom. Jesus was our savior and Cotton was our king. Serious Souls and Bottom Dollar. And Billy Joe wrote all of these songs himself. He rarely, if ever, did covers. I'm not sure that he ever did. I don't know how much he even co-wrote all of these. He was big on promoting his own songs, as he should have been. Ray Wiley Hubbard calls him part of the Holy Trinity of Texas songwriters. It's Guy Clark, Townes Van Zandt, and Billy Joe Shaver, in Ray's opinion. And I don't know. I would, yeah. It's hard to argue that, really. I mean, there's Willie Nelson and Christopherson, all the greats. But if Ray Wiley says it, then there's a lot of truth to it. So anyway, fantastic record. Paid more than I wanted, but not as much as I thought I'd have to. And so when he got to Nashville, he held Waylon Jennings to a promise that Waylon had said he would record an album of Billy Joe songs. Well, I don't know if Waylon forgot about it. There's so many mixed versions of the story. But this is like the brotherly companion piece to Old Five and Dimers Like Me, Honky Tonk Heroes. And if you look, there's Waylon, there's Billy Joe Shaver, and you can tell it's Billy Joe because of the missing fingers that he lost in a sawmill accident when he was a young man. Waylon did a lot of cocaine. He ran around with bikers, and Billy Joe came in and kind of pushed his songs, and Waylon pushed back, and Billy Joe wasn't afraid to take on the bikers and Waylon and everybody, and they ended up together helping form one of the blueprints of outlaw country. And, it had sort of started a little before that, but this is one of the definitive albums. This is a Fat Possum repress from a few years ago. I probably don't have the money to get an original. But Honky Tonk Heroes, Old Five and Dimers Like Me, Willie the Wandering Gypsy and Me, Low Down Freedom, Omaha, You Asked Me To, Ride Me Down Easy, Ain't No God Mexico, Black Rose, and then We Had It All, which is not, I believe that's the only non-Billy Joe Shaver song on here. It helped put Billy Joe Shaver on the songwriting map in an even bigger way, helped establish Waylon's cred. It's a great record. It's rough, it's gritty. It's Waylon with his band. It's people he wanted on here. So, again, I don't know if this is my favorite Waylon Jennings record, but it's right near the top. And so a great companion piece, kind of 1A and 1B here. Because Waylon was the better singer, Billy Joe was the better songwriter. And together these two albums make fantastic outlaw country and Texas music. And speaking of Texas music, here is the recent repress that just came out on Record Store Day Black Friday. 2 LP version of Willie Nelson's Atlantic Records debut, Shotgun Willie. This is one that I kind of overlooked for years. I had one of the original 80s CD presses of it. It just didn't sound good. The songs didn't resonate with me as much as a younger man. Even though if you ask Laura, I've been an old man my whole life, and she's known me since I was 11 years old. So I've always kind of been an old soul and related to older music. Anyway, I ended up getting this CD as part of the Complete Atlantic Years box set, and I liked it more. And man, I found an original pressing of this a couple years ago, loved it, and the curse of the collector is real. I wasn't going to pick this up, and then when I got there and saw a copy at Off the Record here. I say here in Grand Haven. I live in Fruitport now. I've lived in Grand Haven my whole life up until August, so I'm still used to saying here in Grand Haven. Anyway, in Grand Haven, off the record, Benji and Angie Stone own it now. They've got a fantastic thing going, and I think there might be a copy of this left there. Shotgun Willie, Whiskey River, Sad Songs and Waltzes, Local Memory, Slow Down Old World, Stay All Night, Stay a Little Longer, I Gotta Have, Devil in a Sleeping Bag, She's Not For You, Bubbles in My Beer, You Look Like the Devil, So Much to Do, and closes with a brilliant cover of Willie, just he and Trigger, his guitar, doing A Song For You by Leon Russell. And so it's a varied album. There are Memphis-style horns on here on the title track. The lyrics, of course, are great because Willie's lyrics are, well, they're almost always great. But back then, they were always great. And it comes with a bonus disc of outtakes and unreleased songs, which are on the CD version from the Atlantic years. Overall, I'd say a 9 out of 10 album. Between this and the next one that came after it, Phases and Stages, Willie was at a creative zenith at this point. He was allowed by Jerry Wexler from Atlantic to do whatever he wanted, and he did. And he crafted an album that's part country, part rock, part funk, part soul, all parts Willie Nelson, and it's fantastic. So check out Shotgun Willie, even if you can't get a hold of the 2 LP set, get a pressing. And I'm feeling a little parched, and you can hear I'm a little stuffed up and whatnot. Cheers, everybody. Switching gears, I am not a Deadhead. I have 3 Grateful Dead records, and this is one of them. Wake of the Flood. I heard this at Vinyl Night at the Armory in Grand Haven. Andy, I don't remember his last name, guy who works there, was spinning one night, and he put this album on. And that night I went home and I searched out a copy on Discogs, and I had to find, and of course, that was end of last year. This year it got a proper remaster, and I could have just gotten it for a lot cheaper than what I paid for an OG copy. That said, so there's still a footing in Americana music here, but it's leaning towards some jam stuff, some free-flowing stuff. Side 1, Mississippi Half Step, Uptown Toodaloo, which is the song that I'm like, oh my word, that's fantastic. Let Me Sing Your Blues Away, Road Jimmy, Stella Blue is on here. Here Comes Sunshine, Eyes of the World, and The Weather Report Suite ends it. And this is just an album of fantastic musicianship, fantastic songs. And again, this is an album, if you're like me, I appreciate the Grateful Dead. I like them. I'm not a Deadhead. I'm not a completist. I'm not even going to try with them. But this is a darn good record. And so I have American Beauty, and then what's the other one? I can't remember, but the 2 that came out in 1970. And but this is a good sort of companion piece from a couple years later. And so, anyway, even if you're not a Deadhead, even if you're not a huge Grateful Dead fan, I really suggest checking this out. It's a very listenable album. The musicianship was really good here. And then you want to talk about good musicianship. All these boys were, late teens, early 20s when this came out. Nobody was particularly old. The lead singer was, I think, the oldest of the group. To come out of the gate, firing on all cylinders as a completely formed, top-notch musical act. There are a lot of great debut albums, but very few that can touch this one. And that is pronounced Leonard Skinner. This album defines Southern rock to me. I love the Allmans. I really like their stuff a lot. So it's no slam on them, and it's not that there aren't some definitive Southern rock albums from them too. Man, this first Leonard Skinner record. I Ain't the One, Tuesday's Gone, Give Me 3 Steps, Simple Man, and that's just side 1. I really like side 2, Things Going On, Mississippi Kid, Poison Whiskey, and Freebird. 8 songs, all killer, no filler. Every one of these guys is gone now. It's crazy to think that they were only about averaging 20, 21 years old here, and they're all not with us anymore, which is a shame. You had Leon Wilkerson on bass, Billy Powell on piano, Ronnie Van Zant, the working man's poet, Gary Rossington on guitar, who at 20 years old was doing the slide guitar in Freebird. Holy moly. Bob Burns on drums, Alan Collins on guitar, and Ed King on guitar. And I really like a lot of Skinner work, even with the comeback years, Johnny Van Zant, Ricky Medlock on guitar and whatnot. There are some really good songs. There were some really great songs from the original lineup or variations of it. This is the Skinner record for me. It all started here, And a little shout out because with Laura, she was actually born in Duval County, Jacksonville, Florida, as some of the folks down there like to refer to the town. Hometown boys. So here's my shout out to Duval and to Jacksonville, Florida, and to the birthplace of Leonard Skinner. Amazing killer record. And God bless and God keep all those guys, because they're all not with us anymore. Oh, great musicianship in a whole different way here. This one is different. It's credited simply to the Mothers, technically, but it's a Frank Zappa record, 1973, Overnight Sensation. I remember when my dad told me I was in 6th or 7th grade, he said, you ever listen to Frank Zappa? He's weird. I think you'd like him. And sure enough, I got into Zappa, and it was just strange. And so there's not a whole lot to say about Frank. This is one of the 2 or 3 most commercially accessible records. He never made commercially accessible records, but this would be maybe the closest. So Camarillo Brillo, I'm the Slime, Dirty Love, 50-50, Zombie Wolf, Dynamo Hum, and Montana. And so not a particularly long album. Side 1 is just under 17 minutes. Side 2 is just under 18. Frank always had top-notch musicians with him. The fact that he wrote, he was a composer, and he wrote all these songs, not just came up with the chord progressions and stuff, but he actually put the songs together note for note, and just, unbelievable. So there's the inside. There's Frank looking every bit the Sicilian that his genetics were. He almost looks like Jim Croce there. It's kind of crazy, isn't it? And so, anyway, man, love this record. This and the one that came the next year. So when I do my top 10 of 1974, there are several follow-ups here from these that are every bit as good, maybe better. And anyway, the Mothers, a.k.a. Frank Zappa and the Mothers of Invention, or whatever term you wanted to call them, Overnight Sensation. Fantastic record from 1973, and a lot of fun. Now, I need one more sip of coffee, I think, before we keep going. Cheers, everybody. These are my 2 favorites from this year. These are albums that helped form how I hear music. They still inform my listening today. And it was kind of hard to pick because these are each my favorite from this particular configuration of the band. And I don't know which one to go first. I'm going to go with $1 Million Babies from the Alice Cooper Band. And so this is my favorite 1A, 1B with Killer. But overall, I'll pick this as my favorite from the original Alice Cooper Band. It was meant to look like a snakeskin wallet. And the copy I have still, and I kill myself for hacking this up here. So it still has the $1 billion bill in it. So this is an original pressing. It's a beat-up copy. I got it for $5 at the yard sale back in the 90s. And my mom was like, in the 90s, vinyl was all but dead. And she, why are you spending $5 on a record? I can't believe that. Yeah, now this sucker is going for big bucks. Even in the VG to VG minus copy that I have here. And so anyway, $1 Billion Babies by Alice Cooper. I'll just, Elected, I Love the Dead, Sick Things, $1 Billion Babies, Hello Hooray. But every song on here, again, here's another 10 out of 10. All killer, no filler. Alice sounded fantastic. The band was firing on all cylinders. This was the height of the original AC band's creativity, in my opinion. You're welcome to something else. But even if you don't think it's the best, you can't deny that, oh my word, this is a great record. So it belongs in any top 10 list from 1973. After this, the creativity sort of waned. The band went its separate ways. According to the guys, no hard feelings. Who knows? Anyway, 1973, Billion Dollar Babies, the original Alice Cooper band. And now, the cover on this is worse than the record. I picked this up when my friend John was managing the Full Circle in Holland. And this is one of the 2 albums I picked up first by this band from its classic lineup, or first classic lineup, depending on how you look at it. I wore the tape out on this, and then I got the CD in 2000. I don't remember, a FOP music, I believe, in Edinburgh. I found the Castle Communications, and it was only £5, which was like, what, $7 or $8 back then, so it was great. I listened to this over and over, and this was one of my 2 introductions to the band. And that is Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath by Black Sabbath, and it came out at the end of 1973 in December, and so it barely squeaks in. This actually says 1974 Warner Brothers Records, so it's a little later release, but it was originally released in the first week of December 1973. So it squeaks in, even though there's some questionable dates. Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath, A National Acrobat, a little instrumental called Fluff, Sabracadabra, Killing Yourself to Live, Who Are You, Looking for Today, and Spiral Architect. Before I knew Paranoid, War Pigs, Iron Man, before I knew anything of the Paranoid record or anything before or after, this and Dehumanizer with Vinny Appice and Ronnie James Dio were the first 2 cassettes I bought. I don't remember which one came first, but they were very close within months of each other. And I had a Walkman, it was the mid-90s. Walkman cassette players were still very popular. This album, it's heavy. I think the title track is the heaviest song Black Sabbath ever did. There are a lot of keyboards on here, but they don't overrun the guitar yet at this point. After this, I think they started getting a little too experimental and leaving. I mean, it was good music. But people talk about Sabotage, the follow-up, being their favorite. A lot of people like that one the best. This is what informed a early teen, 13 or 14. This is what informed my listening at that age when I discovered Black Sabbath, one of the 2 Sabbath records. Again, if you only pick up one Black Sabbath record, try this one. I give this a 10 out of 10. I can't wait for this to get the proper box set reissue treatment like so many others have. I mean, Technical Ecstasy had it, for goodness sakes. Why can't Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath get it? So, Mr. Iommi, you're out there listening. I know you're working on Born Again and some of the later IRS records. Please give us a proper reissue of Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath. Not just the standard, but let's get the box set treatment for this. It deserves it. So anyway, there you go. There are my top 10 records for 1973. Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath, Billion Dollar Babies, Overnight Sensation, Pronounced Leonard Skinner, Wake of the Flood, Shotgun Willie, Honky Tonk Heroes, Old Five and Dimers Like Me, Sweet Revenge, and the Sun Seals Blues Band. So there you have it, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages. Albums, my 10 favorite albums that turned 50 in 2023, and I'm just squeaking in because as I'm recording this, it's December 22nd. It's a Friday, I have it off work, and I thought, man, I'm going to be productive here. So I've wanted to do this video for months and months and months. Thank you for indulging me. Let me know your top 10, top 5, top 20, whatever. Let's have some respectful discourse on this. If you disagree, if you agree, let's have some really fun talk. So take care of yourselves, everybody. If I don't post any more videos between now and then, since today's the 22nd, happy holidays. Merry Christmas to those that celebrate. There's a bunch of religious holidays out there. And if you're not religious and celebrating a holiday, I hope things are well for you. I hope things are good for everybody out there. Take care of yourselves. And thank you for your kind attention.